composed of volunteer citizens appointed by the City Council. The Commission is the designated hearing body for a range of land use applications, including general plan amendments, rezones, conditional use permits, and amendments to the zoning code. Upon recommendation by the Commission, general plan amendments, rezones, and zoning code amendments proceed forward to the Peoria City Council for final action. For conditional use permits, the Commission will make a final decision subject to appeal. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedure requirements to allow an impartial and efficient hearing, and all Commission meetings are open to the public under the Arizona Open Meeting Law. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. Once called, City staff will give a presentation of the case, followed by a presentation from the applicant if they so desire. After the applicant's presentation, members of the public who have submitted a speaker's request form will be called to speak by the Commission Chair. The applicant may be called to provide additional information, clarification, or a rebuttal. The Commission will discuss the case, may ask additional questions, and take action. Any member of the public wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant at the end of the dais. When speaking, please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes and try not to repeat statements already made by others. We welcome your comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation.
To the August 17th, 2023 City of Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Thank you all for attending. I would like to start out with a simple roll call. We'll start with Vice Chair Nelson.
Present.
Secretary Waitman.
Present.
Commissioner Alsop.
Present.
Leila Villasenor, not present yet. Commissioner Updegraff, not present, and the chair is present. So thank you all. I'd like to make just I know we have a case that's brought a lot of interest to our community, and there are quite a bunch of speaker request forms, so I just want to make a last call for any other speaker request forms that somebody would like to speak and hasn't turned them in yet. Okay. We'll update the roll call, and Commissioner Villasenor is present. Next item is the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and have been previously reviewed by the Commission and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a Commissioner member so requests, in which the item will be removed and added to the general order of business and considered in the normal sequence on the agenda. Commissioners, any comments as it relates to the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Commissioners, please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, the main event for the evening. New business, item 4R, Vistancia Major Plan Community District Amendment Z01-10A.16. Discussion and possible action to amend the existing Vistancia Plan Community District, the PCD, to increase for maximum dwelling units from 10,500 to 12,000 and allocating those additional units to the commercial core. This proposal also removes 2 potential golf courses located north of the CAP canal and includes formatting refinements for increased usability. The property is located south of the southeast corner of El Mirage Road and Lone Mountain. I'd like to welcome staff with their report, please.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Lori Deaver on behalf of staff presenting this evening. So as Chair mentioned, the proposal is for an increase of the total number of residential units within the Vistancia Master Plan community from 10,500 to 12,000. Those additional units would be allocated to the commercial core, which we'll talk in depth in the next few slides. The focus of this particular amendment is located south of the southeast corner of El Mirage Road and Lone Mountain Parkway. The commercial core area is approximately 442 acres in size. Overall, the community is over 7,000 acres in size. William Lawley, on behalf of the applicant, is here this evening and will have a presentation for you. In terms of location and context, the commercial core is noted in red on the screen as you see. The village at Vistancia is outlined in blue, which, actually, let's go back one moment. The village at Vistancia is located to the west and to the north, as you see on blue. Arizona State Trust land is denoted on the east and south of the particular parcel. In terms of some history and background, the Vistancia community has had a rich history within Peoria. As I noted, it's over 7,000 acres in size. Originally, it was a part of two projects known as Vistancia North and South. The entire balance of that area was fully annexed and rezoned into the city within 2001. There have been several minor and major amendments, refinements over this 20-plus year lifespan. Hence, we are on amendment number 16. That's the A16 on this case number. A couple of items I do want to point out. In 2012, the maximum number of units was reduced from over 17,000, as you see on the screen, to the existing maximum of 10,500. Secondly, in 2015, I want to bring your attention to the parcels in yellow. Those are parcels D1 through D4. Those were originally a part of the commercial core area. Given their proximity and closer to other state trust land and a few other items with the constraints, they opted to remove those. They actually did develop as single family. They are a part of the village at Vistancia. And just as a refresher, the last item that Commission has seen was most recently within 22. That was a gas station at the corner immediately south, and that was, it's now known as the Vistancia Point Commercial Center. That's the Barclay piece. Construction is underway on that one. Briefly on the applicant proposal, this is being branded as 5 North at Vistancia. It is the last lifestyle community. The applicant will go into more detail this evening. In particular, items to note, this is a mixed-use zoning already in place. The strategic location of Vistancia puts it in the middle of 2 regional employers. So this particular amendment is looking to right-size the community and bring critical mass to the commercial core. In their justification, the applicant denotes that this particular request supports demand for a diversity of housing options and brings to fruition the vision and the intentionality of what the commercial was intended to be. They did provide some representations during the neighborhood meeting, this one being the Main Street concept. They also provided some imagery as to what that might look like and feel like for the neighbors as well, and those are captured on your screen. In terms of the rezoning request, this particular amendment does a couple of things. First, as we noted, it increases the 12,000 unit total unit count within Vistancia and allocates those additional units to the core. Secondly, there is an option, a removal of an option for 2 golf courses, which I'll touch on more in my presentation later on. These 2 items are completely separate and unrelated, and so I'll touch on that briefly. And then lastly, because of the age of this particular document, it has fared well, but we always look to provide clarity, usability, and consistency when we're implementing the regulations, so there's some of that as well. Getting into staff's analysis, again, designated as mixed use. So existing permitted uses include commercial, employment, and residential. Currently, 400 units out of the maximum 10,500 are already allocated to the commercial core. So as I noted, this request increases the total unit count within Vistancia, the master plan community, from that 10,500 to 12,000. It would add 1,500 units to the commercial core as noted. So in totality, that's 1,900 units being proposed in 5 North, as you see on the screen. In terms of the areas that staff looked, I'm going to touch on these briefly in the next few slides. So starting with land use intensity. Multifamily is an allowed use within the core. There is no change to the composition of allowed uses. Secondly, the intensity standards, and we talk about those with maximum building height, that's already 85 feet. The maximum density is 75 dwelling units per acre. The design standards remain unaffected. So in totality, looking at this, the intensity and the mix of uses remain unchanged. The design standards remain the same. In terms of character compatibility, the Vistancia PCD sets the character through regulations and design principles. So it talks about the intent, the vision, it sets out design objectives. In their proposal, the developer identifies the intent of these multifamily units to be market rate, luxury, lifestyle-focused, multifamily residential units with luxury amenities for the future residents. So as I noted before, there are existing allocation of 400 units within the core. So regardless of today, tomorrow, or beyond, any residential project within the commercial core would need to meet the existing design and amenities standards in place. Those aren't changing. Therefore, the character and compatibility remains the same. Oops. Let's talk about balance of uses. So the PCD specifically states within it that the commercial core is intended to accommodate higher intensity of commercial employment, industrial, and residential uses intended to serve a regional market area within a 10-mile radius. In their application, in formation of this particular request, the applicant noted that they benchmarked a number of other mixed-use successful centers to look at the components that make up those successful centers. And they also combined those with resident surveys. So they did a survey of Vistancia residents asking what they wanted and combined those two elements then to reformulate the plan and the layout that you see on the screen. So at 1,900 units, looking at those additional benchmark centers, it is consistent on the number of units for this particular center. So staff finds that this proposal provides an appropriate balance of uses that achieves the intention of the PCD, as I noted above. So as I noted, there's a separate golf course option removal as part of this. What does that mean? So the current PCD allows the developer to construct 2 additional golf courses in North Point. North Point is on the screen kind of outlined in white. It is north of the Central Arizona Project Canal. So if they did not select the golf course option, the land underneath is already designated for residential homes and amenities. So removal of this option has no impact on the number of units allowed within Vistancia. Conversely, building and operating a golf course takes significant water resources. So building these golf courses would not be consistent with the city's water conservation efforts currently going on to serve existing and future residents. Taking that a little further, extinguishing that golf course option increases the total amount of open space by approximately 469 acres. So what you see on the screen before you consists of both existing and planned open space. That equates to approximately 37%. The city normally requires 20%, so there is significantly more open space within this community than what we would normally see. Every project that goes forward within Vistancia is required to provide amenities and path and trail connections in accordance with the existing standards. There's no change to those standards. So should this area develop up north instead of golf course, again, it would provide the resident amenities required, the path and trails connections that are expected. So staff concurs with this extinguishing of the option. Touching on infrastructure, starting with circulation. There is regional access being provided from Loop 303 via the interchanges at Lone Mountain, Jomax, and Happy Valley. As part of this particular request, the traffic data was updated to reflect the proposed zoning changes. And it is important to note that the city policy balances traffic concerns against increased costs to residents for ongoing maintenance. So what does that mean? Roadways will be widened to the ultimate conditions based on average daily trip thresholds being met, and traffic signals will be installed when they're warranted. So looking at 5 North in particular, the residents are experiencing already the widening of Lone Mountain. It is being completed hopefully pretty soon. Otherwise, Mr. Limke to my left will be receiving more phone calls at some point. There is an existing signal at Lone Mountain and El Mirage. As you note on the screen before you in the circles, there are future improvements signals as well. One being Lone Mountain, there will be a signal at Ridgeline, Revel Way. There's going to be 2 more on El Mirage Road, future signals at Ridgeline Road and Westward Skies, as I've noted. Commission, this has been one of the most widely robust outreach programs that we have ever experienced in terms of public outreach. Informal open house was held May 1st at the Mountain Vista Club Gymnasium. There was a wide range of media and platforms used to get that word out. It was a general walk around with boards at certain stations, people answering questions. Approximately 300 plus people were in attendance. So the required neighborhood meeting was held June 7th, same location. Additionally, there were signs posted, postcards went out, e-blasts, interested parties for emails, etc. This was a formal presentation, and it is, picture was on the screen there. I give you bonus points if you can see me sitting in the crowd. Approximately 400 plus people were in attendance. Now, usually those numbers, you say that and folks kind of look at you skeptical, so hence I put the photo up. So there's proof to accurately reflect that. In terms of city notification, notice of application went out within the standard radius as required. Legal ad was published in the paper. We had the site postings updated. I did send out an email to all interested parties, so those who provide correspondence, they did receive notice of both the neighborhood meeting, the public hearings, in addition to correspondence just in general. So notice of hearing postcards. We sent this out in addition to the required radius. The applicant requested and paid for the additional expense to have the city send out the postcard to the balance of the Vistancia community. All total, that was just short of about 8,000 postcards being sent out. School information. This is within the Peoria Unified School District boundaries. The 2 elementaries that serve the community are Vistancia and Lake Pleasant. High school is Liberty. We did receive a letter that is included in your packet from Peoria Unified. A couple of things to note. They noted the developer's long-standing support of public education by providing school sites and other positive contributions. They did acknowledge some overcrowding in area schools. However, they believe that they will be able to provide quality educational opportunities for the new residents. In terms of correspondence received, a significant amount has been received by staff. Number of inquiries, asking questions, or additional information. There is an online petition circulated and submitted by staff. This was an open platform, open to everybody, so it was not restricted to who could sign up. And that is reflected in the number of locations identified by the signees. That was originally updated since the packet and has been included on your dais. Of the 838 names provided, 26% of those identified as Vistancia residents. 74% were non-Vistancia residents. In terms of support letters, those were also updated in your packet for this evening. I have received 231 people in support of the project. Noted topics or noted items, they noticed housing diversity, support for the desired commercial, retail, and restaurants, Anne also noted that the community has done a really great job in bringing quality, and they do expect a high-end execution on the multifamily. In terms of opposition letters, currently have 147 people. Those concerns, quality of life, crime, property values, school capacity, and adequacy of infrastructure, and I'll touch on those briefly. First one, the housing type is not compatible with the Vistancia vision or character, so there was a concern that this would be low-income housing. So in staff's response, the developer has identified these are going to be market rate, luxury, lifestyle-focused multifamily units with luxury amenities for the residents. Multifamily is identified as a key component within the Vistancia zoning document in order to deliver a vibrant and dynamic lifestyle community. As I noted previously, there is no change in the mix of uses, the building height, the density. Therefore, it remains consistent with the vision and the character already outlined within the Vistancia PCD. Federal and state laws prohibit the city from placing ownership restrictions on the property. I see a note there. So therefore, the city cannot require condos to be provided versus apartments. And lastly, and something to keep in mind, the voter-approved general plan encourages robust housing options throughout the city. Next concern was, will reduce property values and increase crime. To that, staff responds with, the potential increase or decrease in value is influenced by an individual's perception. Published data shows an increase in values when multifamily is introduced into the community, contrary to the claim being provided. Secondly, perceived increase in crime is bias-based and not reflective of actual statistics. In this particular instance, the police department did review similarly sized single-family and multifamily units in close proximity to one another. The call service data does not reflect a significant difference. So the two claims are both perceptive in nature. They're subjective. Staff cannot verify them. Therefore, they had no merit in staff's analysis of the request. Finally, to enhance existing services, the city and developer has proactively been planning a joint public safety facility north of the cap. The development team can speak more to that particular item. As I noted earlier, there was a concern with overcrowding of schools. Staff's response is as follows. It is important to keep in mind that schools are separate entities under the Arizona Constitution and state law. Cities are not authorized to address issues such as school capacity, school size, etc. When issues arise, the city tries to the best of the ability and to the extent allowed to find resolution of those issues. In the letter, PUSD acknowledges some overcrowding in the area schools. However, again, they believe they will be able to provide quality educational opportunities to the new residents. Finally, the developer did identify in their packet they continue to pursue all options for the high school. They are collaborating with PUSD to identify a site should funding become available. Lack of infrastructure to support growth for water and traffic was the next concern. The master plans for water, sewer, drainage, and traffic were all reviewed in conformance with Peoria's engineering standards. Given Vistancia's age, those master reports are refined over time as the community develops. There is existing infrastructure facilities adjacent to the commercial core area. There is sufficient capacity to serve the property with the increase in residential units. Lastly, there was a strong desire to keep the golf course option and including request for the courses to be built. As I noted before, this is not consistent with the city's water conservation efforts to ensure our ability to serve our existing and future residents. The removal of the option does not decrease the total unit count. The area can still be developed as homes, and they need to provide the amenities and required path and trail connections for the residents as required by the standards. With the removal of the option, the open space increases by 469 acres. That is approximately 37% in totality being existing and planned for open space. Again, significantly above what the city standard is. In conclusion, our findings for this particular request. The Vistancia PCD envisions a commercial core as a mix of integrated uses, including retail, commercial, hospitality, employment, and residential. Multifamily is an allowed use within the commercial core already. The existing composition, intensity, and character remain the same, those standards are not changing. The unit increase provides appropriate balance, similar to those of other successful mixed-use centers based on the information provided. There is adequate infrastructure to support the request, and extinguishing the golf course option better aligns with the city's water conservation policies. So with that, the recommendation options are noted on your screen. Staff is recommending approval of case Z01-10, A16 to City Council, subject to the conditions in Exhibit 1. And with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Ms. Deaver. I anticipate we'll have some questions. Commissioners, any questions at all? Vice Chair Nelson?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question. One of my biggest concerns is the overcrowding of schools. And my question is the ratio of students produced by an apartment unit the same, less than a single-family home? Do we know that?
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I can answer that. So in our discussions with PUSD, they do use a figure, and essentially it is 0.2 students generated per multifamily unit. It's 0.42 students per single-family unit, so it's about half for the multifamily that's expected.
Thank you.
Anything else? Great, thank you. Commissioner Alsop?
Thank you, Chair. One question and then comment for the city. One, I appreciate the homework you did on the crime and traffic. That certainly helps. Just want to emphasize, I've heard a lot of those same concerns over the years. I spent 4 years studying real estate in undergrad and 2 more years for grad school here at ACU, and those were frequent conversations that we had in our studies in graduate school about the impact on certain housing types in a community. So thank you for presenting that. That is consistent with everything that I've learned and seen in school and development. Another question, I looked at the numbers of letters that you had. It sounded like there was several hundred missing. Did I miss something? There was 147 opposition, 231 in support out of 800, or am I mixing up categories of numbers?
Chair, Commissioner Alsop, you are mixing and matching a bit. So the names on the petition, as you will see in Exhibit 11, is 838. Of those, there's approximately 218 that have identified themselves as Vistancia residents. In the letters of correspondence, those are found in Exhibit 10, both within the applicant's citizen participation plan, also found within Exhibit 12 under correspondence as well. There were additional letters provided this afternoon, so in totality, that's where the numbers are generated. You may see redundancy from folks that emailed or responded multiple times. So the numbers provided by staff are for people and not for numbers of emails.
Great, thank you. And my last comment / question, I think I've been pretty vocal about very pro-economic development for Peoria, and this employment is something I see as a great opportunity. Certainly, I strongly suspect that whatever employer will potentially be coming in will be looking for a diversity of housing, which I think this will help. Do we know what the status of this employment center is? I know at one point someone was looking at it. Is that still on the books?
Commissioner Alsop, I'm going to defer that question to the applicant in terms of their marketing activities.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Ladies? I have a couple of questions. The maximum height of 85 feet for the apartments, how many stories is that? Is there a max story, or is it based upon height?
Chair, that number of stories is misleading. It's 85 feet. It depends on if your floor plate can be anywhere from 10 to 12 feet. It depends on if the level of amenities, so that floor plate may go up or down depending on construction type as well. So you have a podium implementation process which will adjust things, or if it's wood structure, it'll be a different composition. So staff doesn't use a story mechanism, we'll use a max height.
Were any of the two golf courses that were referred to, were those planned for this area, or were they further north?
Mr. Chair, they are located within the North Point community, which is completely north of the CAP, so it's a separate request. Being that they had a request anyways, this was a cleanup item. They're just formally taking this option off the books. They didn't have to go and use the golf course option. It's just there sitting in case they wanted to use it. So this is just a formal designation that they do not intend to use the golf course option.
Okay. So if it's a developer option, do we really need to remove it, or they could just not exercise that option, right?
Mr. Chair, you are correct. They could have left it as is. This is just a cleanup off the books to formally remove it.
Okay. The modified open space by the golf course is going away. If they want to modify that and make that buildable land, do they need to come back before the commission?
Mr. Chairman, great question. The land underneath is already designated either through residential, open space, et cetera. So the golf course actually takes a little bit larger area. Once you remove that, you would see the already existing residential amenity open space that has been planned underneath. So it's just kind of like removing a filter to see what's
I
actually
understand,
underneath.
but if they come back and,
They would not need to.
They would not-
Apologize. Correct.
they would not need to what?
They would not need to come back in front of commission.
Okay. The online petition, was that done by an organization or just a concerned citizen that you're aware of?
Mr. Chair, that was done by a concerned citizen. It was open to the public, so anybody and everybody could submit their name.
Do you know where that was published?
Mr. Chair, that was on change.org.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any other questions? Secretary Waitman?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Deaver, I think I just have a point of clarification from one of these slides said that there would be widening of the roads. There are some already in queue, some already being done, and then as needed. Is that what I heard as well? So there additional work would be done if needed?
Chair, Commissioner Waitman, I'm going to turn to the gentleman to my left, our city engineer.
You're far left.
Chair Fighter, Commissioner. So what we're alluding to is Lone Mountain. Lone Mountain was one lane in each direction. It's been widened to 2 lanes in each direction. That was based on thresholds that were established in previous studies for Vistancia. The previous threshold to widen it was 15,000 vehicles per day. Lone Mountain hit that threshold. Now it's 2 lanes in each direction. The next threshold to widen it to 3 lanes in each direction is 33,000 vehicles per day. That applies to Lone Mountain. That also applies to El Mirage. So what the traffic group will be doing is we'll monitor it annually to see when it hits that 33,000 vehicles per day. And that will be the trigger to widen it to 3 lanes in each direction. Fortunately for Lone Mountain, Vistancia, and El Mirage, those roads are already widened on the outside. So when we need to add the lanes, we add the lanes in the median. And so it's set up, it's just taking more of the median away to add more capacity for the roadway. But as a consequence, we don't want to widen it early because that's more maintenance responsibility for staff, more asphalt we have to maintain. So we want to keep that 2 lanes in each direction until we hit that threshold, and that's when it's needed to be widened.
Okay. Thank you. So just for clarification, so that we understand, this would be monitored, and then if a threshold of 33,000 vehicles is hit, then we would go ahead and look into widening those roads again.
Chair Fighter and Commissioner, that's correct. So There's agreements with the developer that at a certain threshold, the city annually will collect counts. Once it hits that threshold, then we start the discussions about designing the winding of the roadways. This would be Vistancia and Low Mountain to the 3 lanes in each direction. So the burden now is on the city. Now, this application that's in front of you, all the traffic could be handled with the 2 lanes in each direction. So I want to be even at, so the study that was submitted to the city was a very conservative analysis in that it didn't assume any internal interaction with the mixed uses. All the trips were going on the major roads. It wasn't being absorbed by the collector roads, which are the secondary roads inside. And so even with the conservative analysis, the 2 lanes in each direction on Low Mountain and Vistancia is sufficient to handle this development. But in case something else comes in the vicinity, we're going to monitor it, and once it hits that threshold, we'll be talking about widening it to 3 lanes in each direction.
Okay, thank you so much. And then I'm guessing there also will be traffic control technology, whatever is needed, so that we can basically mediate those issues, because I've read a lot of letters in opposition, mainly traffic issues. So would that be part of that as well, other than the widening?
Chair Fider and Commissioners, that is correct. So in addition, so we got the roadway widening, and then we got traffic signals.
Okay.
And so traffic signals we put in when they meet signal warrants. There's national criteria that we follow that's based on warrants and crashes.
Okay.
We don't want to put the signals in prematurely, so that's something else that the city will be monitoring as development continues. Once the signals are established and put in, then we put technology with those signals that are responsive to the traffic out there. So if you drive in other cities, and I'm not going to name cities, you may be waiting at a red light forever because that signal's not responsive to real-world conditions. What we do in Peoria is we implement technology in our signals, so it's very responsive to side street traffic and to progress traffic on the major corridors. And yes, that technology will be implemented as we install new signals in the future.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Lemka. And then I have a second question, and this was just once again a point of clarification. There was one slide that addressed a survey that was sent out within a radius, talking about maybe amenities or what residents would want in that area. So we did get a radius provided for public outreach regarding the project, but what was the radius for the surveys of asking the residents what they wanted? Do we have a mile radius of the survey that went out?
Chair, Commissioner Waitman, I would defer to the applicant to identify what they used and how, what methodology they used for that survey.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Deaver. I would like to know, just because once again, when we have those letters of opposition, but a survey did go out to residents and talking about wants and needs, I would like to know what radius that went out to and if all those residents possibly received and were able to put in some feedback. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Is the applicant, I assume the applicant's here and like to speak? For the record, state your name and address, please, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. For the record, Bill Lally with Tiffany Bosco tonight representing the owners of Vistancia. And appreciate everybody's time. Lori did such a great job of giving you the facts. I'm going to probably cover a few things, try not to be redundant, grab a couple of those questions that I think you guys asked and see if I can add some more color, and greatly appreciate your time tonight. So again, the history I think is important. Vistancia has been here. It was really born in the 90s. The entitlements were done and completed in the early 2000s, meaning most of the planning was done in the late 90s. The team that brought Vistancia, Sunbelt Holdings, probably one of the most premier master plan developers in all of Arizona, envisioned sort of top of class, best in class community. And over the years, you've seen Vistancia ranked locally, statewide, nationally as the #1 master plan community or top 10 master plan communities. It's always been envisioned that this would be kind of a living, breathing document as things change. The community, the master plan developer, has come in and changed with it. When there's new demands, I think 10 years ago, nobody even heard of pickleball. So things are changing over the years in terms of amenities, and I think what we see with the almost, I think, 18 amendments here is a master developer that over the years has paid attention to making sure that this is a best-in-class community. Again, how that's happened is you've had a core group of folks, namely Mark Hammond and his team, who was with the original developer, Sunbelt, and has stayed on as a consultant to the new ownership for many, many years. The Vistancia entitlement is always, just like any other large 5, 6, 7,000 acre master plan community, anticipated to go on for 20 to 30 years. So things have to change along the way. And as you can see up there, and originally started with 17,000 units. They kind of recalculated in about halfway through in 2012 to figure out, is this going to make sense? Are we going to be able to build that kind of residential capacity above the cap in the train up there? And so they right-sized the single-family component at the time, but everything was envisioned. The roadway, the location along 303, everything initially for the last 20 years envisioned having 17,000 plus units accessing this development. Today, we're right-sizing this to 12,000. So far cry from the original analysis and the original plan, but we believe the mixture of uses today makes a lot of sense. Again, adding the 1,500 units today, really the question is, well, why? Why 1,500 units? What makes that number special? You already have 400 units in the master plan allocated to the core. Why do you need more? We can talk about the golf course later. I think Lori did a great job of talking about the golf course, and I'll touch on that a bit. But really the why is why we're here today, trying to right-size the community. The community has been super successful over the years with a single-family component. And now the core is ready to go. The core has been a 400-plus acre piece of property that has sat sort of dormant for many, many years. For 20 years, there's been lots of starts and stops. There's been sports facilities planned there, educational facilities, secondary educational facilities, large employers planned. But when you had the large two employers, BNSF to the west, Taiwan Semi to the east, it really changed what Northwest Valley was going to look like. The 303 changed what Northwest Valley was going to look at. And so the master plan developer, led by Mark, who's been involved in this since the late 90s and early 2000s, said, we're going to survey the community. If this is not going to be a huge BNSF or a huge only employer core, what is this going to look like? And so, Commissioner, to answer your question, a survey was sent out to the entire zip code. The zip code is the entire Vistancia master plan and then some. Sent out through email, sent out through the HOAs, sent out through notice, and solicited responses. And shockingly, everybody said, I want something special. I want this to be really, really special. There's really awesome areas around the valley, Kierland Commons. We want some of that here. This is a high-end, top-of-class development. We deserve top-of-class retail, top-of-class restaurants, and amenities. And so when we talk to the team says, well, how do we deliver that? How do we go out and recreate something like a Kierland Commons? We're about the same size as the Kierland core that has non-residential along Scottsdale Road. We're closer to the freeway than Kierland Commons is. How do we do that? And so we enlisted the top experts in the town, went out and hired the team to do a market study. The market study came back and said, in order to create this special place, you've got to have a critical mass, and a critical mass of excitement, employers, multifamily, people who are going to be there walking. If you go to Kierland, you go outside the shopping, you see the high-class residential that surrounds it. You go to Cooley Station in Gilbert, Santan, other areas around the valley that have been super successful. So we did a market study. We said, how do we do that? And they brought these numbers in front of us. And they said, well, if you look at Kierland and Quarter combined, their acreage is 410. Today we're talking about 442. Right now, they have planned, built, or under construction almost 5,000 units of multifamily that surround that make that successful. And people want to be there. It's exciting. It's lively. It's walkable. The high-end retailers and restaurants want to be there because there's the demographics and the people, the critical mass. So we looked at that as a example. We looked at Cooley Station in Santan. The East Valley has grown in the last 20 years incredibly. I mean, probably more so than anywhere else in the valley. The West Valley's turn is now. This is our decade to grow like the East Valley did in the early 2000s. If you look at Cooley Station, their core is a little bit smaller, 232 acres. They have 2,600 under construction planned multifamily. If you look at Santan Villages is right on the 202 down there. Very, very similar in size. It's 275. It's a smaller core, and they have a lot more retail, a lot more kind of bigger box retail, fewer apartments, but that's probably, apartment-wise, more in line with what we're talking about today. So the 1,800 units is probably a little low, I'll be honest with you. But in order for this to work, we're going to need to go more than 400 for sure. And we think 1,800 is probably that sweet spot. Quickly, there was a request about, hey, well, what about employers? What are we doing about employers? And so the team, led by Mark, who's been on this project for 20 plus years, is talking to 2 employers right now, large folks that will probably take 100 acres of the core for employment uses. Now, I can't get into the details today. It's a little bit confidential, and the city and the developer are talking to those users. But that's imminent. That could happen very, very soon, and that will help activate. And those employers want to say, well, what's going to be around? Is it just going to be some more dirt lots, or are we going to have something that looks like this? Are we going to have something around us that is a critical mass, that we want, our employees want to be, our C-suite guys want to be? And so that's what we're trying to create today. It's really the lifestyle that Vistancia and the West Valley deserves. The East Valley's had it, Scottsdale's had it since the 90s. It's the West Valley's turn. And the way to do that, the experts tell us, the way to do that is to follow the projects that have been successful and stay successful. In the downturn, Kierland lost a few shops. They bounced back and replaced them with stuff that's even better. So if you look at what's happening, this is the phase 1 kind of conceptual plan of how this would lay out. You have a kind of Main Street concept, very, very similar to the Kierland. Look at all the open space. Now, we know if you walk into Kierland Commons, you don't see a ton of open space. This is going to be Kierland Commons with a bunch of open space. So the Lifestyle Center will create that critical mass. It will support the employers that are coming. And frankly, it's going to look beautiful. The people who want to be in the West Valley, the high-end restaurants, the high-end shopping, the high-end condo developers want to be somewhere like this. There's nowhere else like it in the West Valley, and this is that special place. The public notice was teed up, I think Lori mentioned. This is our public participation report. Honestly, I've never been involved in a case where we had a team of full-time people all day, every day, working on outreach. This is a massive amount of outreach. When the city requirement is to send out maybe to a couple hundred folks, and the developer says, no, let's send it to everybody, 7,800 folks, almost 8,000 people, not just around the core, not just Vistancia, but the 1,320 outside Vistancia got notice letters. So yeah, there's a lot of engagement. There's a lot of engagement in your packet, but we wanted that. We wanted everybody in the entire community to know what was happening. And so you do have a lot of letters. And you have a lot of letters of support, 200 plus letters of support. We have a pretty big row behind me of folks here in support to speak to what they want to see. They want to see something special. Again, Lori did a great job of going through all of the above and beyond that we did on outreach. But I think that was what was important. This project deserves buy-in, and this project deserves everybody to know what's going on. And so we're proud of sort of this 6 inches of documents that unfortunately were emailed to you, and you hopefully wore out your printer printing. Again, I think there are some topics that I can go through in terms of access. Mr. Chairman, yes. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, a lot of these things have been addressed by Lori. What I will do is focus just on this one. This is the 5-acre joint public facility, fire and police, that will be built sooner rather than later. So these public facilities get planned, and then they get thrown into CIP, and then the developer donates land or works with the city to to identify land. Our developer, unrelated to this, because it's actually on the north side, has been working closely with the city to advance the project, construction next year along Vistancia Boulevard to the north. So, Mr. Chairman, board members, I think I covered most of the questions, if Lori didn't already, but happy to answer your questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lally. Commissioners, questions? Vice Chair Nelson?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here, and thank you for adding some more color to some of the questions that we had. Just a few more questions. You mentioned in your presentation that these apartments will be market rate. I've been out of the apartment world for quite a long time, so I don't know what market rate is. Tell me what you anticipate these renting at.
Boy, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Mr. Chairman,
A
Commissioner.
range is fine.
Yeah, so I don't have a range with you. Market rate is really what is the market demand. Market rate is what's in Kierland. Market rate is what that demographics in that area. So when someone wants to be near Kierland, they're going to pay a little bit more than if they're in Glendale or if they're in Desert Ridge, where I live, only a few miles away. So market rate means the best in class, what's going to happen in that sub-market and what's going to be demanded in that sub-market, as opposed to something that's maybe subsidized.
I'm not sure I'm any more clear on what market rate is based on that, with all due respect, but I'll assume that means average? Is that what I'm hearing, or is this above average? Can we quantify it in that way?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I think you could absolutely, definitively say above average.
Above average.
We're trying to recreate a very special place, putting a below average or average amenity in there is not going to serve what we're trying to do here.
Okay. Thank you for that. That does help.
Thank you.
May I ask a couple more additional questions?
Have that. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, just
I
a
misread
couple-
your pause. I
No problem.
apologize.
Can you, and not that this is a qualifying question for approval, obviously, but can you speak to what kind of support you're providing or assistance you're lending the school district as far as its struggle to get a school in that area or expanding classroom space in that area?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Nelson, I think you heard Ms. Deaver's explanation or description of the letter that came in from the school district. And it's a bit of a complicated formula. The school district applies for funding, they go through and get construction dollars, they work with us to try to find a site. We have remained committed to the school district that as soon as you guys are ready to go, we're ready to go. But if that gets delayed for some reason, public funding is sometimes not as predictable as we hope, we are talking to and we are keeping on the table every other opportunity, every other education opportunity to make sure that the community is successful, whether that's your typical district school facility or a non-district school facility. So our first choice is to absolutely help the district try to find a facility or help them figure out how to fund a facility sooner rather than later. And we've been committed to that from day one. So.
Okay, thank you. One other question is, can you speak to, and I appreciate all the public outreach you've done. That's outstanding. It's something we've all been pressing for, is to get the community more involved, more aware, casting a wider net to get involvement from the public, and it sounds like you've done that. Can you speak to any kind of tweaks or adjustments you made in your plan as a result of feedback you got from some of these neighborhood meetings?
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Nelson, great question. We had tons of feedback. You've seen a lot of it in here. And there's a lot of very, very constructive, helpful comments and suggestions in terms of this type of use, where it could go. And the good thing is this development plan, the PCD has flexibility. We're not here tonight with this building has to go right here, this exact place, at this exact height. So our team is remained committed to a successful high-class core. I think everyone that we talk to wants the same thing. How we get there is we're going to take a lot of input, setbacks, buffers, putting uses in certain parts of the core that make sense, making sure that the traffic flows in the right direction, Those are the things that we heard over and over for the last 6 months, and those are the things that our team, our design team, is taking into account, because it's got to be successful for the developer, the users, and the community. So it's a combination of trying to thread the needle, so to speak, on making sure that we have all the right uses in the right place and the least impact on existing citizens.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Alsop?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a couple comments, not particularly questions for the applicant, but I did want to speak to a couple things I know are going to come up. Rents, which come up every time, and then secondary to rents, which people don't say is really income. Right now, if somebody were to build an apartment, and I'm familiar with this because my whole family builds apartments all over the country, if you're building an apartment today, it's very expensive. The land is expensive, your interest rates are expensive, the construction's expensive. That virtually guarantees that the rents are going to maintain high over a long period of time, because that developer has to amortize the construction cost over the higher cost, over the rents for all the residents. So if we build today versus we built 10 years ago, or who knows where we'll be in 5 years, we are almost ensuring that we're going to have a better product. So I think the timing is fantastic to make sure that this is a high-quality product that fits within a high-quality community. So I'm very supportive of the timing, and appreciate the level of outreach that's been done. I do a lot of that from my work through APS. It is a tremendous lift to try and engage with thousands of people. So my praise for you for doing that. Secondly, I don't really, I think this won't be a popular comment, but I don't think the rents are relevant anyways. Just for an example, and I've said this before, my mortgage on my house is $900. Does that make me a less valuable Peoria citizen or resident? I think I'm doing okay in life. I like to contribute back. Here I am. So any comments will not be received well by me that somebody of lower income could potentially move into this community. My vision for Peoria is to have a Peoria where people of all stages of life can live in Peoria. The people that are going to be moving into this area are not people that are going to be creating problems. Why would you move all the way out to Vistancia? Probably because you have family out there. It's not exactly a convenient location. So I look forward to having people out there of all stages of life. I would not have been able to move into where I live, which is close to Vistancia, had housing taken a massive downturn. Today, I don't see people my age moving into my community very much. So I'm grateful I got in when I did. I would love to see more young people moving into my community, and I hope this is an opportunity that helps people in all stages of life accommodate that. So those are my comments. I suspect there will be some pushback on that, but thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you.
I have a couple quick questions. To confirm your prior slide, the current zoning has allowed for apartments going back to 2002, is that? Did I read that
Mr.
right?
Chairman, and Ms. Deaver, if I go astray, please. So the land use in the core allows for multifamily. Currently, today, it allows for up to 400 units.
How long has that been allowed for?
Day one.
2002?
Correct.
Okay. I know you kind of teased us a little bit on the employment, and I'm not going to ask any further because I understand confidentiality issues. Have the leasing efforts commenced on the retail? Or is that, I see heads shaking in the office,
Mr.
so I think
Chairman,
they
you got a team back
answered
here
your
that
question.
knows a lot more than me, I
Okay.
think.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of thumbs up, so,
Thank you.
yes.
All right. Any other commissioners? We good? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Lally. Appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting to public comment. I would just like to say in advance, I appreciate everybody's passion, both for and against, and everyone's interest in this case. I just request that each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. I respectfully request that if items that you are prepared to speak about have already been brought up, to limit duplication of comments, and please be respectful of the time and be respectful of all the other speakers, commissioners, and staff in your comments. So, with that said, first speaker request form I have, Thomas Alberti. Alberti? When you do approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Tom Alberti. I live at 11642 West Andrew Drive, which is well within a mile of the commercial core. I'm relatively new to Vistancia, having just moved here from Wisconsin. But I still have a lot of concerns. And as far as the petition goes that the chair was talking about earlier, as of this morning, there were 852 signatures. Now, Ms. Devers said that, only 216 were residents, but I'm sure that there are some people there that are maybe snowbirds. They own properties within Vistancia. I don't know how many in particular, but just wanted to set that straight. The commercial core is 400 acres, 400 acres. Of that, 74 acres are going to be for commercial and retail, 74 acres. And 25 of those, if I understand it, is going to be for fries. So you're going to have 50 acres to support 18,000 residents that are existing right now, plus, and if you assume 2 people per apartment, plus another 3,800, so 22,000 people. That's not near enough to support that many people, acreage. The Vistancia Marketplace, which is within Vistancia, is the only other real retail commercial in there, and that's probably a half the size, and there's really nothing there. There's a Walgreens there, there's a bar, there is a Safeway grocery store there, which is helpful, but what I'm saying is there's not enough. The applicant compared it to Kierland Commons. I don't know how you can compare it to Kierland Commons. Scottsdale Road is well built out. There's restaurants and, bars, restaurants, development, shopping, all around there. What we're going to have is all these apartments, plus we're going to have, 50 acres of retail and commercial, plus 25-acre fries. And I don't think there's a fries at Kierland Commons either. The other thing that concerns me is there's only 22 acres set aside of this 392 acres for green space. And I thought that the city wanted 20%, if I heard earlier, for green space. So those are big concerns. The density of the apartments, they're going to put 1,900 apartments on, most of them are going to go on 55 acres, which is the high density part. They have another 73 acres set aside for mid-density apartments for 128 acres. So all of those 3,100 people are going to be shoved into there.
Thank you.
As far as statistics go, I can make statistics say whatever I want them to say, especially when there's hard.
Mr. Alberti,
Can you hear me?
the 3 minutes has expired, so I need you to wrap it up if you could, please.
Okay.
Because we have
Okay.
others that want to speak behind you.
Absolutely.
And there's bedtimes, so.
For sure, no kidding. So here's my point. At one point, they called this the commercial core, and there was a reason why they called it the commercial core. They would have called it the apartment core if they wanted all these apartments in it. And I would ask the committee members to please put yourself in our shoes, the residents of Vistancia, and to please recommend to the Common Council not to pass this zoning amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Alberti.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up, Howard L. Laga. Pardon the, I wasn't going to accuse you. You have 3 minutes, so,
Yeah, I'm going to make up for it real quick.
thank you.
12345 West Dovewing Way in the village. I've heard the presentations, the initial presentation. Seems like there was a lot of studies being done, particularly about traffic, crime, and water. And I'd like to know, are these studies available to the public and also probably to the commission as well? If they are, how can I access them?
Okay.
I don't know if that's a question or if that's something that you would consider making public, so more people.
I'd like to defer to Director Hawkes. I believe that can be requested through the clerk's office.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so any item that has been submitted in support or part of this is a public record, so that can be, you can ask for those public records through the city clerk's office. We have a records request form.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Wendell.
Robert Wendell, 12322 West Dove Wing Way in Vistancia. Been out there since 2006, so one of the original residents who came into Vistancia. Boy, were we told a different story back in those days. There was going to be a high school in this property area. As you know, both Lake Pleasant and Vistancia schools are the biggest schools as far as population in the Peoria Unified School District. They're overcrowded, both of them, enormously. No high school. Liberty, way overcrowded. We were promised there's going to be different school, a high school on this property. Never happened. And for this young lady to say, and Peoria Unified School District, my wife worked there for 25 years, to say, we're committed to quality education. What did we expect them to say? Come on, get real. I'm 100% against this for main reason is until the schools are addressed, adding another 4,000 people with kids in overcrowded schools, you're out of your mind if you think they can absorb those in existing schools. They got to be taken care of. You're worrying about people coming in wanting to be part of this community. If there's no schools, they're not going to be one part of this community. The schools need to be addressed. And I understand you guys don't have that authority. I understand the city doesn't have that authority. But Vistancia, these guys back here, promised us when we moved in, there would be schools, there would be high school. And look where we are today. Nothing's happened. Some of it's not their fault. I don't blame them for that. Peoria School District can't get people to vote for these. But the problem is adding more people without additional schools, it's going to be a disaster for the community. Other point I'd like to say, just recently we heard condos. Never did we hear condos during these meetings at the gymnasium. It's not going to be condos, it's going to be apartments. During those meetings, the vast majority of people in those meetings were against this. Do we hear that from these people? No. They talk about sending out surveys. I never got a survey. I've been there for 16 years. I talked to people on my street, in my neighborhood, up at the pool. Did they get a survey? No. But apparently they went out, anybody who had an 85383 zip code, they got a survey. Most of those people don't even live in Vistancia. As a resident, 100% against this, should be stopped, and shame on you if you don't do it. Thank you.
Brad C. Give me a shot at that. We're going to go to Judith Cornelius. Give me a shot at that one.
Good evening, and thank you for this. My name is Judith Cornelius. My address is 29586 North 119th Avenue. First of all, I'm not a NIMBY person. I'm really not. I come from a metropolitan area much larger than Phoenix, so I understand condos and apartments and multifamily. And I'm not an alarmist, but when we talked about traffic, and I don't remember who on here was talking about traffic, the whole idea that it's not going to increase traffic goes against the concept of growth. I mean, you can't not have more traffic with growth. It's just not even a realistic expectation. The issue with traffic that I have has nothing to do with building it out. I'm actually excited. I can't wait for the Fry's to open up. I'm close to it, and it's like, this is going to be great for us. And I really do want restaurants and people, and I don't care about the apartments. What I care about has to do with Peoria not supplying ingress and egress to this area. We have not extended Joe Max. We have not extended Lone Mountain. And I know Joe Max is on the table. I think I saw that in one of the documents, that extending Joe Max to El Mirage is on the table. We're going to have 30,000 people back there with 2 ways in and out. The difference between Kierland is they can actually get out of their area. It's north, south, east, west, and diagonal. We can't. We can barely get out of there now. If you're there during busy times during the day and you hit that Happy Valley turn, or you're trying to come in with that Happy Valley turn, it is a nightmare. And my concern is actually safety. It's not even about inconvenience. You know, this is part of living in, again, I come from out of Chicago. Talk about inconvenient, it took me, 2.5 hours to go 27 miles. That's not my issue. My issue is, and after this Maui fire, it really did, bring it home that we are trapped in there. And the city has done nothing for us. They really haven't. You talked about the 303 loop. Yeah, you can get on the 303 here, here, or here. Well, what's that? If we have something happen to the east of us, people have nowhere to go. I mean, literally nowhere to go. And to expect us to agree to or be excited about or think better of you because you approve a development when we have nowhere to go if something happens, and we're looking at a tinderbox right now on this desert, I think that this is on the city. This is not on the developers. It's not on the people who want to build restaurants. This is on the city to make this happen. So if Joe Max is going to happen, make it happen. But it should have happened before these apartments went in. You cannot put another 1,500 apartments, which is another 4,500 people based on Peoria's density of people. You just can't. And ask us to live back there in this place that is going to box us in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cornelius. Is it Todd Cushing? Did I get it right? Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Todd Cushing, 12500 West Oyer Lane. We're up in Mystic. We just moved here from Chicago, so I've been here 1.5 years. Got tired of the politics, got tired of the taxes, got tired of the weather. So since we've been out here this 1.5 years, bottom line, no Section 8. If you guys can guarantee that for me, I'm in. If you can't, because for whatever reasons, I'm out. Let me explain. I lived up near the Wisconsin border, cheese land. And we had a beautiful house. I put $230,000 into it. Low-income housing, not too far away, less than 3 miles. I sold my house, I lost $230,000. The house that we bought here, we paid over $100,000 in November of '21. We loved the house. We wanted to be inside of a gated community. We couldn't get in a gated community because there really was nothing for sale. Trilogy had 4 or 5 homes for sale at the time. We had to do some gut remodels, no pool. Blackstone, 2 houses for sale. I wanted to be in a gated community. I couldn't get in a gated community. Scottsdale, I couldn't afford. So guess what? We overpaid for a house. We love the house in Mystic. It's got an in-law suite. It also has a brand new pool we just put in. That was $200,000. We also put $200,000 into the house. Am I going to lose my money? I hope not. Bottom line, I had to get my conceal and carry in Chicago. You know why? Because in the low income and housing, gunshots on a regular basis. We go to bed about 9 o'clock, 2, 3 in the morning on a regular basis. I heard it. I'm out. If you want me in, give me that guarantee. And let me give you one more case in point. I talked with Patrick. He is the general manager for Blackstone. I joined Blackstone because there's really no place to eat. There's a couple nice places there, but I want to eat somewhere nice and quiet. So we joined Blackstone. I also love golf. Can you guys give me a raise of hands? How many golfers do we have here? None. I love golf. And yes, I suck at golf. And I joined Blackstone so I could play some golf. Guess what? It's hard to get a reservation to go play golf. It's even hard to play golf at Trilogy. I've played there several times too. You can't get a foursome. You can get a onesome and join another threesome, but it's very difficult to play golf. Guess what? You guys say, or some people say, it's all about water. It's about money. If you want to take out 2 golf courses, at least give us one. Patrick said to me, I says, are you for or against other golf courses in the community? He says, if it's private, I'm against it. Now, I didn't call Trilogy, but I bet you they would be also against a public course. So there you have it. Do I like golf? I love golf. I suck at the game, but sometimes it's a nice outlet to go play golf. If we want to bring all these people in, why not have another golf course? But it ain't about water, it's about money.
Thank you, Mr. Cushing. Appreciate it. Thomas Bator.
Good evening. My name is Tom Bodorf. I live in Mesquite District, 28247 North 128th Drive in Trilogy at Vistancia. I totally support the 5 North project, and I believe the majority of my neighbors in Trilogy at Vistancia do as well. From what I'm hearing and reading, the main concerns among the residents opposing the project centers around 2 elements: the understandable fear of crime entering the area and an increase in annoying traffic. I totally respect both of these concerns, and I'll share my thoughts on each. Regarding the crime element, it's certainly easy to understand why there's an assumption among many that it's a foregone conclusion that adding apartments to our community will result in an increase in crime in Vistancia. You can't turn on the news without seeing how crime is out of control across the nation. However, I strongly believe that the crime element is a function of one component, that being government and community leadership. And I feel certain that the city of Peoria will vigorously prevent crime from getting a foothold here. Why do I believe this? Due to Mayor Beck's commitment to take public safety to a new height in our city. More than a dozen officers have already joined our police force in 6 months, and more will be coming on board within the next year. Under Mayor Beck and City Manager Darwin's leadership and commitment to no-nonsense law and order, I fully expect Peoria in the next few years to earn the reputation of being the safest city in the entire Valley of the Sun. Regarding the concern over automobile traffic, I drive across Lone Mountain Parkway on a regular basis, and I've seen the terrific job the city has done in widening the road in both directions and building 3 spacious access points to 5 North from the north side. Since these points are only a minute or less from entering or exiting the 303 freeway, I believe the increased traffic down El Mirage Road and ultimately Vistancia Boulevard will be minimal. And there are 2 new access points on El Mirage that appear to me to be placed in well-thought-out locations. With all this being said, again, I support the 5 North project and believe it will prove to be a tremendous asset to our beautiful community of Vistancia and ultimately the city of Peoria. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chris Spalding.
Good evening. I'm Chris Spalding, 31548 North 133rd Lane in Peoria. I am an associate broker with Lake Pleasant Real Estate, and I've been selling homes in Vistancia for 12 years. My wife and my 3 kids have lived in Peoria for close to 20 years now, 8 years in West Wing and the rest in Vistancia. A little bit of history in my career. I've spent a lot of time when selling homes in Vistancia telling people, we have a commercial core, and you will be able to get advantage of that commercial core. Only for them to say, well, what is it and when's it coming? And I say, well, it's coming, maybe, in the future, right? So it's always been a tough sell. It's always been, hey, Vistancia's a little bit far out there, and it doesn't have a gas station, but now it does have a gas station, and there were always concerns that I've had to overcome. Lack of restaurants as well, especially outside of big box restaurants. And then recently I hear about 5 North, and it's a high caliber development. It's got retail, it's got hotels, it's got restaurants, it's lifestyle centered. You know, I think it's the highest and best use of the land, and personally I'm thrilled because finally I get to help sell the community a much easier way. The problem with restaurants, my understanding, has been that there's never been a lunch crowd to be able to sustain the restaurants, right? You have an evening crowd, but nothing else. And now, with the introduction of 5 North, we're going to have some commercial office space moving into the area. We also have TSMC, which my understanding is meant to bring over 50,000 jobs over the next 8 years to the area. So to me, that means that we'll start to get better restaurants, less big box restaurants accessible to Vistancia. High-density housing, I know that there's been objections to crime several high-demand master communities, especially in Scottsdale, already have high-density housing. You've got Kierland, Greyhawk, Gainey Ranch, and they all have good sustained house prices. They're all in high demand. We really need affordable housing in Vistancia and in 85383. We've had a 33% increase in values in the last 2 years. The Vistancia median house price is now $600,000. 2 years ago, it was $400,000. If you're an entry-level engineer at TSMC, you're going to have a good salary. You're probably going to earn 80, 90, 100,000. But are you going to be able to afford the median house price in Vistancia of 600,000? I don't know. We need affordable housing. So in summary, from my standpoint, as being a realtor, I think 5 North will really help support property values, and it'll add a pedestrian-friendly central heart to the community, and I'm very much in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Peggy Neely.
Good evening. I'm Peggy Neely, and excuse my voice, but I live in Vistancia, 11587 West Candelia Way, and I'm here tonight because I'm kind of an unusual person for this deal, but I'm fully supportive of the application. I actually served a little time on the Phoenix Council. I represented the area before Kierland was built. A lot of people may not remember that there was nothing down Scottsdale. The property was pretty open as far as where Kierland and the Westons were both put, but it came. We had houses, we had apartments, and both of those areas are excellent. I've been involved with High Street as a master development, been involved with Kierland and Desert Ridge. So let me just tell you, my husband and I moved to Vistancia in January before the pandemic. We spent about 9 months having the house built. We were excited to move there. We had lived in Northeast Phoenix for 20-some years, and we wanted a change of scenery. When we saw Vistancia, we decided that's where we wanted to be. In addition to the fact we knew the master developers, we knew they did a good job. We read what you were bringing, what was in the core, and what we could look forward to. What I want to say is we now have a chance to have something that we don't have in Peoria, we don't have in Glendale. What we have is a quality product that's coming to us. Yes, we're going to get apartments. And I would just like to answer your question on apartments. There's about 3 categories of apartments. There's Class A, there's Class B, and Class C. And these will be Class A, no doubt. Will they be at the top of the market? Absolutely. But you want that. And we have lots of winter visitors that currently cannot stay in Vistancia because they can't stay long enough. I think that this brings a new opportunity, but this is my real beef. I'm tired of driving to Kierland, to High Street, the other side of town, and spending my dollars in Scottsdale and Phoenix because I cannot find quality places to eat, quality shopping, and we have the opportunity today to change that. It's not down 83rd. It's not in Glendale. You can build something that's special. If you deny this, shame on you, because this is an opportunity that's coming once, and I hope you'll approve it. Thank you.
And Ms. Neely, thank you for your prior public service. I know that was did a lot of work for the city of Phoenix, so thank you. Laureen Bator.
Hi, my name is Lorene Bodorf, and I live in the Mesquite District, 28247 North 128th Drive in Peoria. I am in full support of this project. I have felt informed the whole way. I have run across things, whether it's Phoenix Business Journal or whatever, that I can read. If I have questions, the city has been fully supportive of answering any questions that I've had. And so this will be short, but I really am in support, and I'm excited for this to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brian Neely. Not speaking? Okay, got it. I'll register as a vote in favor. So, Joe Klur.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Joe Clory, live in Vistancia and Entrada. I'm in full support of this proposal. Understandably, a lot of people are concerned and apprehensive about any time anything is built new in their vicinity, in their area. I'll give you an example, the retirement home there, I believe it's Westwind. Lots to do about the height, 4 stories, oh my God, the traffic, who approved this? And now, to be honest with you, we drive by it, we don't even notice it. And it really doesn't cause any ramifications whatsoever. The issues with the school and what have you, those things will all eventually work themselves out. Rather it's we eventually approve a bond election or we look for other alternatives such as charter or private schools. That'll work itself out. Perhaps with the new residents, maybe the votes will be different in a bond election, especially if they have kids. So those things will all kind of work themselves out. Very valid points about the ingress, egress restrictions right now for that area. But those two will also eventually, as we expand, will resolve themselves. This has been a 20-year project, and we still have some growth to go, and that'll take time, and all of these things will be addressed. The reason I'm in support of this project is, like Ms. Neely said, I'm hungry now, and I want this thing built yesterday. We need restaurants. We need places to take our families to. We currently drive everywhere we go. There's a couple of good restaurants there locally, but other than that, we really have nothing, and we should. The area demands it. I think we're entitled to it, and I don't like to use the word entitled, but I think that it's expected that a development of this caliber would have those kinds of things, and we've been promised them forever, and now's the time to deliver. This is an excellent project. I went to the presentations, very exciting. They've been very forthright about what to expect, and I'm in support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Paul Barkley.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Paul Barkley. I live at 11974 West Shifting Sands Drive. It is really close to El Mirage Road. We watched El Mirage Road get built, understanding that it may get to 3 lanes at some point, just like Lone Mountain. And I don't want to be repetitive, but I want to bring up a couple points that haven't been discussed. In the recent Peoria Independent newspaper, it mentioned that our growth in the city is going to go 22% by 2030, and it's going to grow by over 50% by 2050. We need places to put people, and it can't all be single-family homes. The multifamily homes will have to start coming in. So this is a good place to put them if they're going to be upscale. Our zip code is one of the highest in terms of median income in Maricopa County. We need more upscale retail, dining, and entertainments. 5 North fits this bill totally. Also, I read recently that the rental tax repeal is going to impact the revenues for this city upwards of $5 million, if I understood it right, that we will be impacted by that. We need more tax revenue. 5 North will fit that bill as well. So I'd like to see us, like some other people have mentioned, stop going elsewhere to spend our discretionary income and our tax revenue stay in Peoria and not go to places like Park West, Posada, and Westgate that were built since we've been living in Vistancia. So I am in support of this, and I hope that you grant the zoning request. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please feel free to visit Park West. That is Peoria as well. So we will take those dollars as well. So you take Park West off that list. I hear you on that, but all right. Thank you, Ms. Rowe.
Good evening. My name is Katie Rowe. I'm a Peoria resident in the Willow District, 6862 West El Cortez Place, Peoria, 85383, but not Vistancia. My mom is a resident of Vistancia. She lives in Trilogy and couldn't be here tonight. She's also in support of this. I would like to be a resident of Vistancia. I have hesitated to consider moving there because I don't want to drive back and forth so much, and there is not much out there right now. There's not a place you can drive through and get a cup of coffee. There is not even a fast food restaurant. I mean, there are no options. What do parents out there do? I'm really not sure. That's a little bit beside the point. And just my personal experience, but I also run an organization called Upper West Side PHX that I founded a few years ago. And the whole purpose of that organization was because I was frustrated as a resident, living in further east in Peoria, that we had so few options as far as shopping and dining as the area continued to grow. That group that I started went from being me to 35,000 people who also feel the same way. So I think that's testament to the fact that Peoria residents want more shops and restaurants. They want higher end. They want first to market. They want high caliber. You saw the numbers tonight as far as people submitting letters of support and opposition. A lot of times with things like this, the opposition comes out in full force. People are less likely to step up and say, like, yeah, I'm okay with it, or yeah, I want it. And I think it's really interesting that change.org petition. I've never done one of those. My following is hyper-local, so the majority of the people, probably 99% of them, live right here. And I've never done change.org when I wanted something, so I could have, I guess, created a petition for this and said, hey, my 35,000 followers, can you go do this? But you could get people in North Dakota. There's no control. So those 800 people could be, whatever. But I think it speaks volumes to the fact that so many people did submit support letters. That's not common, I'm sure you guys know. So I think people really are in support of this. I've even spoken to people who signed that change.org petition and then said, oh, but I didn't really understand. I didn't really know. I didn't know that this was the developer that developed the rest of the Vistancia and did such a great job with it. And they've been here for 20 years and they're committed to the community and they're, exploring other options for schools until a bond passes. And they are committed to, making this fifth stage of their project something that they're proud of. They put so much into it over 20 years, so this is really the last phase for them, and I fully believe that they will stay true to what they've done so far, and that they'll put in a high-quality project, which is exactly what the people of North Peoria want. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe, and congratulations on the new Peoria resident. Laura Hernandez.
Hello, Laura Hernandez. I live in Vistancia, 13355 West Via Caballo Blanco. And I've been in that area between West Wing and Vistancia for 23 years. And that's always been known as going to be the commercial core. If you didn't know that was going to be developed commercial, I would say you lived under a rock, because it's always been, that was always the direction. I think the biggest thing is now we need to decide, are we going to let them go in with this amazing development, or are we going to not pass this, and then it could become another RV storage place, right? We have to really be consistent, I think, with the vision of Vistancia, the elevation there, the housing values, which people mentioned. And if we let it go commercial, it could go very bad as well. So I think this is a great opportunity to take it past this, let them have their extra 1,500 houses, and we could get something really beneficial.
Thank you. Last but not least, Jen Sinconis? Sinconis. Apologize for butchering that. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Jen Sinconis. I am in Vistancia at 13360 West Via Caballo Blanco. It's late and I'm last, so I will go really short on this. Just wanted to say I'm in 100% support of this project. I think it is a great addition to our community. I live in Vistancia. My children both go to Liberty High School. Yes, it is crowded, but the school is we've had great experience there. They're doing a good job. So I think what we need is to dial up what we offer our residents here. I am a small business owner. Laura is actually my business partner. We've got a shop in Glendale. We would love to be in Peoria. We would love you to come spend your dollars with us instead of going to Glendale. So we are here. We need, though, the people there to actually be patrons. We can't come into an area if you don't have lunch crowds as well as dinner crowds, if you don't have a Tuesday night as well as a Friday night. So we are here and very excited and hoping that we can move this through so that we can continue to grow and actually put community-focused business into our community where we live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I'd like to thank everybody. I'm going to close the public comment. Thank everybody for their remarks and their passions and comments. And for the most part, we stuck to all our timelines. So thank you, everybody. Any last-minute questions, comments from the commission?
Chair, I'm wondering if we should give the applicant a chance to respond to some of the things that were said. I would like to.
Fair enough. Mr. Lally, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nelson. I'll be brief. It's been a long night. A lot has said. The one thing that I want to leave everyone with is this is not going to happen overnight. 1,500 units of multifamily absorbed in a core takes many, many years. Commissioner Alsop, you know how long it takes to develop a multifamily. It would be years before the first one. So a lot of these growing pains that we're talking about with traffic and traffic improvements, we will work closely with the city in making sure that all of these things are phased in appropriately. Impact fees are paid to the city with all of these units. Development pays for itself. Without development and without partnerships with the private landowners with impact fees, cities can't go out and build streetlights and signals and widen roads. So we're part of the problem at first, the cause of some of that traffic and all the folks here coming to the community. And then we're part of the solution as we partner with this city to make these improvements timely to make sure that the community is built out appropriately. And believe me, Peoria has probably one of the most sophisticated traffic departments to make sure to hold us accountable to that. And so again, this is not going to happen overnight. This is not going to be 800 school students overnight. This is not going to be 4,000 cars on the road overnight. This is going to be absorbed over a number of years. So keep that in mind. I think the core will kick off with employment and retail and restaurants and multifamily, and you'll see a lot of buzz as things progress. There's an easy way to do it and a hard way. Easy, go out and just do a strip mall, do a little pharmacy and a gas station and a drive-through and just call it a day and sell it off, right? This developer has held on to it for 20 years with a vision. And then they look to the best-in-class projects around the valley and actually around the country. The report did look at other ones to say, how do we do it? How do we do it the best? And I think the West Valley deserves the best, and Vistancia deserves the best. So it's going to be a little bit hard. We've got to change the plan a little bit and pivot, but I think at the end of the day, this will be something that everybody in this room will be proud of. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, any last comments? Questions? All right, I got it. Secretary Waitman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank all of the residents that came out, stress their concerns, stress their support. I do believe in definitely listening to what residents are saying. So coming out was definitely not in vain, whether you're in support or in opposition. I just want to, make a comment to all of us as residents that 5 North is definitely a win for Peoria. I think that we really have to pay attention that if something like this gets turned away, we don't know what is to come. We're talking about luxury apartments. We're talking about upscale restaurants, right? I think this is the best that would come before you if you have an option. Secondly, I also want to make sure that we're looking at Peoria for the future, right? We heard I think some daughters, they talked about wanting to move to Peoria, wanting to live here. I'm a huge advocate as a young adult, right? My husband and I were fortunate enough, we have a home, but if that was not an option, right, being young, having kids, we may want something multifamily. We want to be able to do that. These are luxury apartments. I know there were some concerns about what that would bring. I will tell you, my husband and I were fortunate enough to go off to college, to go off to school, to do well for ourselves, but this is not Section 8, and it definitely does not look like it. If you want to know about Section 8, I've been blessed enough not to have to, but I can take you to some place and I can tell you what those apartments would look like. It wouldn't be this luxury and this upscale. So I just want us to know that this is a win, and I want us to look at it as this is a win. I want us not to pass up an opportunity for something that we don't know what is to come. This is the most beautiful project that you're going to be able to see. It's going to give us options. It's going to make sure that we can spend our dollars in Peoria, not in Glendale, because we are limited. We don't have many options, and I just think that we have to look at it as a win instead of thinking about perceptions and thinking about things that may be able to happen. We have a stellar public safety department. We have very low, and I've lived in bigger cities, very low response times, and I think that we just have to trust the city to grow, trust the city to become a city for the future, for kids, our kids, and they're going to want to have retail stores. They're going to want to have places to eat, and they're going to want to have places to build memories with their families. So thank you all, and I really commend the developer for, putting so much thought into this product and really looking at the type of resident that lives in Vistancia, what they would want, and how to best use this large open space to fit all the needs of all those to come. And if we want to be able to support those businesses, we need people. So I'm in full support of this project and the type of diverse housing we're looking to build. So thank you all for your time, and I just want you all to know that this is definitely a win. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitman. Commissioner Alsop?
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. I look forward to supporting this tonight, and I want to express my gratitude to everybody who came here tonight. I love to see the activation of the community, and particularly people that come out and support. We frequently see large groups in opposition, and in order to look at a project objectively, it really helps to hear it both sides. As I said, I'm pro-economic development, pro-growth, so this is a win for Peoria. I appreciate Upper West Side Phoenix and the work Katie's done. I was thinking as she was speaking here, I remember seeing her on Facebook years ago and thinking, here's somebody who's trying to activate the community and get good information out there. I spent years studying this in school. I did this for work. It's complex, and to be able to get that information out there so people can make an informed decision is very helpful, and I appreciate the activation of those efforts in doing that. About a year ago, we had a similar meeting for a project called Trailhead. Lots of opposition, lots of support, and I remember saying in that meeting that this was going to be something the developers are going to watch. How does Peoria respond to Trailhead? I'm grateful here we are a year later, and we have some support for an even larger, better project. So I'm happy that we're in a community where we can hear from the people, and we have developers that are coming in and investing their dollars here and not taking it to another city. So just with that, I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop. Vice Chair Nelson?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try not to duplicate what Commissioner Waitman so well articulated, and Commissioner Alsop as well. I think this is an outstanding project, to be frank. I'm often critical of high density, as my commissioners know. Fellow commissioners, I'm not always a fan. I'll look for a reason sometimes not to support it. In this case, I really had a difficult time finding anything not to like about this, to be frank with you. The placement of it near a freeway, the high density piece of it, the way it's laid out, I think is superb. The community outreach, you nailed it. I think the quality of the product, I certainly understand we couldn't get to the price point. In fact, I'll put in my nomination for least likable comment tonight, in that I appreciate all the comments as far as it being luxury and that being a positive. As a young father trying to launch a couple of young 20-year-olds into the world who's looking for affordable apartments, I don't know if they could afford to live here, frankly, and I certainly would love to see some product that's more affordable for winter visitors, for empty nesters, especially for young families and young people who are trying to launch themselves into the world. Please help us, as parents out there trying to do that. But that's okay. This is the product that this area wants. I respect that. It sounds like a great product. I appreciate the work done to contain the traffic into this area and not put it through the neighborhoods. That sometimes has been an issue and a concern. I'm fully supportive. Yes, I'm not a golfer, so perhaps my opinion is tainted on this, but getting rid of those golf courses, a very high water use. I don't know if you folks know, but we're in a drought. So getting rid of those golf courses, yay. I love that piece of it as well. That greater diversity of housing, again, I'm going to continue to beat the drums on that. We need more diversity of housing at different price points in this part of Peoria, throughout all of Peoria, throughout all of this country, frankly. So I like that this gets us a step closer to that. Again, I would love it to see something a little more of an average price, affordable product, but that's okay. The open space component of it, again, lots to like about this product, and I'm confident that we've got a city staff that's going to hold the developer accountable to deliver and make sure the developer delivers the product that he promised you, that you're hoping for, and that won't negatively affect your housing values. I'm confident of that. We have an excellent staff about keeping developers of projects like this on their toes and accountable. So, and this commission will do that certainly as well. So that's why I'm going to support this. Thank you, Chairman.
Vice Chair. Commissioner Villasenor?
Thank you. And thank you for all the articulate comments from my colleagues. I will try not to reiterate. I do have a couple comments of my own, but I do have a question as well, or a clarification for the applicant. Just to publicly clarify, is there any intention to build Section 8 housing in this area?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Villasenor, I'm glad you called me up. I forgot my phone, so
oh, good.
I had to come up and get it.
Happy to help.
I'm like, where is my phone? It's sitting right up here. So thank you for that. So publicly, no, there is zero intention to build Section 8 housing. Section 8 housing requires lots of tax credits and lots of requirements. We want affordability in Peoria, and we want to make sure it's high quality, affordable. But this is Class A. This is Class A stuff all the way. In order to create this sense of place, we've got to have the best of the best.
Thank you. I also was struck with the comments on the ingress and egress. Would you be open to just revisiting that conversation with Streets and Transportation on what is the best, if there's any other options or other things that you can do that can improve that ingress and egress situation?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Villasenor, I can guarantee you that Mr. Limka and our team will be talking frequently about the best way to ensure traffic circulation. And so the answer is absolutely. It'll be a constant conversation.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep that in mind. I think that's a very valid concern. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are all my questions. My comments, I do want to say that I am also very concerned about school capacity. I think this is an issue a lot of school districts in Maricopa County are facing right now, and unfortunately, we don't have the power to do anything about it. And it's also kind of a chicken and egg situation. The school districts are going to respond when they are fully over capacity and unable to provide the education that is needed. And I think it's important for the community to be engaged in our public education system, just as everyone was as it relates to this development. And that is the way that we support our public schools. But in addition to having a public education capacity crisis, we also do have a housing crisis. We need to flood the market with more options. We need affordability, and we also need to recognize that not everyone wants to live in a single-family home. I don't want to belabor the point, but I want to say that, you know, not only are these our school teachers and our entry-level public safety individuals that are moving into multifamily, if you will, it's also people like me. I mean, in our young 50s, kids are grown up, they have left, we're downsizing. I have a lot of friends that are interested in that lock and leave lifestyle. So I think Vistancia has done such a great job in building that community. I'm fully confident that what they build here at 5 North will be just as remarkable as what we have now. I do sympathize with the loss of the golf courses. I do not play golf, but my husband does. So I get the passion that's involved with it, but water conservation is also a very important thing. Again, I won't belabor that, but I look forward to supporting this. I look forward to this developing. I look forward to having another place to go in Peoria, and I agree, rather than going out to Kierland or to Desert Ridge or Deer Valley. So with that, I thank you. I thank staff. I think you guys did a fantastic job in doing the research. I also would like to acknowledge the applicant for their outreach. That's outstanding. Just to willingly mail to all the residents, I think that is also a testament to your commitment to be part of this community. And I also think that we had such a huge amount of opposition in the beginning. I really expected a very packed room today. And I think that the reason we don't is because residents are becoming more fluent or understand better what it is that we're doing. My last comment is I think it's important that everyone understand what our role is up here and really what is before us. It is not our job to dictate every detail of a development. They are asking for a minor change, really, in the overall scope, and I don't see it to be a major thing, and with that, I am in full support. Thank you.
Thank you. I would just like to, I will heed my own advice and not repeat prior comments, so I'd like to thank my fellow commissioners for their input and insight, and staff and the applicant, and candidly everybody's passion and commitment to our community. I think a community is better when everybody's engaged, and I've noticed in my 5 years on this commission that the more people are engaged, the better community we're going to have. So with that said, may I call for a motion?
Mr. Chair, I motion that we recommend approval of item 4R to City Council.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioners, please vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, call to the public for non-agenda items. Your comments pertaining to Planning and Zoning Commission are welcome. Do we have any non-agenda items? Seeing none. 5R, reports, upcoming commission dates. Ms. Deaver, Mr. Hawkes, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the next regularly scheduled meeting will be September 21st. We have the state planning conference the week of the 6th through the 8th. I know Commissioner Waitman will be joining us for that event. We will bring you a report for all those wonderful things. So September 7th meeting is canceled. We will see you back on the 21st. With that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any commissioners have anything they'd like to bring up? Seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.